Europe ad nauseum trying to fight with the same, you know, small little clubs over table scraps. And I know a few groups are out there still doing it, but it gets to a point where you're like, this is not what I really wanted to do with my life for a living. It's like, I don't feel like we're making that big of a difference out there as compared to when we were in the 90s, like where everybody was like, holy shit, this is the future of hip hop. Cypress, House of Pain, Rage Against the Machine, all of these bands that we used to run with, we were it. We were doing it. And now I feel like like it's time for, it's 20 years out the fold for even the Coka Nostra is like 15 years old at this point. So like, again, the burn cycle in hip hop is so quick, man. You know, the fact that some people last 20 years is miraculous, at all.
Right. Before we jump into what you got going on today, I got like one more question as far as music goes. This is from Keith from Canada.
Okay.
He says, can you see yourself venturing back into music, and do you see yourself keeping busy with other projects? I mean, no and yes.
Listen, music is not what I do, man. I'm a fan of music, so there's a fine line between like putting yourself in the picture for what reason. You know, I already feel like that way with La Coka. Like I set it up. I creative directed it. I did my thing, but there comes a fine line where like there's no real use for me in this world anymore because I'm just, I'm a hype man and whatever, but really there's got to be more to it than that for me and even for the band. And so if by chance there was some discovery of some kid that was like light years ahead of everybody else and I was able to help them in some way, sure, I could see myself doing that. But as a career, man, I mean, even some of your favorite MCs right now are struggling to figure that out. And this year is these next 2 years is going to be off years for a lot of people, man. You're going to find out how much those chains are really worth. I'd like to be in the jewelry or the pawn shop business right now because a lot of motherfuckers are going to be selling a lot of shit cheap moving forward if they're not being careful with their money. I feel very fortunate to have been very prudent with what little I have made in the last decade because of being sober and because of losing my ass too many times being reckless in the past, like buying $100,000 worth of posters.
It's going to a good cause.
I know it is, man. No, when I started buying all this shit, it was like I was reckless, bro, and I was making a lot of money, and I was spending it all on eBay: sneakers, posters, spray paint cans, and graffiti canvases, which was 2001 to 2003. I probably spent about $500,000 on all of this shit. Mm-hmm. That being said, man, I've been very careful how I spend my money, and so. By no means am I anywhere near rich. I feel rich as a person, and I've made enough to get me through this year. Even if the museum business, you're literally, I'm sitting in the house, which is my business, and right now I don't know that anytime soon that there'll be groups over 20 that will be allowed to be in any place without the new thing. And so, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to mutate and survive, man. Such is life. You figure it out. I have a really strong faith in a power greater than myself that I call God, and I know that this too shall pass, and whatever comes my way, we're gonna have to deal with it. And again, I'm glad I'm not in the restaurant business right now, with all due respect, because I know, and in the entertainment business right now, if you're a touring musician, man, it's like lights out. I was looking forward to seeing Rage. I was like, oh shit, Rage is going back out. Like, holy shit, like this is when. Will that happen again? I mean, chances are good, right? But we don't know that. Anything can happen from now to a year. I don't know. Who knows? So, again, man, we're living in curious times, but, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I plan on just, holding down the fort. And I still collect every day. Like you collect with the hip hop, I do the same with Rumblefish, S.C. Hinton, The Outsiders, Francis Ford Coppola, anything that's Tulsa-centric. I'm a big fan of Tulsa. I moved here 2 years ago. I fell in love with the town, the legacy, everything about it is my cup of tea. And so all I do is immerse myself in the things I love, and that is, being a historian and a gatekeeper to S.E. Hinton, the author's legacy, and to everything in my radius of the museum, which is the Circle Cinema Theater, which is like I said before, the classic 100-year-old cinema that was seen in The Outsiders, My buddy who's sitting here with the dog that we just kind of adopted over here, she has a place that is on Route 66. They're redoing the whole route now, and it's called Buck Adams, and it's this old gas station that she repurposed into this Route 66 curio spot. There's a lot of creative energy here in the Midwest right now that I used to find in New York and LA. Right now, where I wouldn't want to live is New York or LA, because there's 4 million people in Los Angeles, all going to be fighting for those resources, with $5,000 a month rents and $1,000 a month car payments and no jobs. In the Midwest, you can live for seeds and stems and still feel like you're doing the backstroke. And so I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right gig. And if the museum doesn't open for another year, I'll just keep collecting and keep building the collection. And my grand plan is to hopefully do an Essie Hinton Museum and champion all of her works, which is Rumblefish, Tex, The Outsiders. That was then. This is now. A few other books that you probably never heard of that I don't really know that well. But what she did was, as an author, I'll give you the quick pitch. She wrote The Outsiders here in Tulsa in 10th grade, or 16 years old, failing out of English, and got a D+ in creative writing. And she literally started the young adult category by writing The Outsiders. It was the first time that anybody had written as a young adult, for young adults, about young adults. And that book literally changed the world. And so it was shocking to me to come here and to realize that nobody was really championing that, and that there wasn't a statue dedicated to her, that these landmarks they weren't plaqued up and identified, and it wasn't part of the learned history here. And so that really became I just took it took it on myself. And she's kind of 50-50 with it. She's like, I step on her toes probably with some of this shit, but then I think she's excited that somebody actually is, keep the ball rolling. And so, I found my thing here. And so to answer that question, the longest answer you probably ever heard was like, anything's possible. But right now, man, the last thing on my mind is music, other than as a fan of listening to other people's.
So tell me how you came to acquire the Outsiders house.
I was on tour. First La Coka Nostra tour. We came to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We were playing a venue called the Cain's Ballroom, which is another historic place here that everybody and their mother knows about. At the time, I'd heard of it. It was where the Sex Pistols played in '78. It was the second to last show before they broke up. It's a historic old honky-tonk juke joint. A lot of history to it. Everybody anybody who's come up has played that place. Even when Metallica comes here now and plays like the BOK Center, they'll walk across the street to take a photo out in front of Cain's. It's like CBGB's was, like you earned the right of passage to play in there. Or if like the Rooftop or any of those little hip hop spots, you would be like, let's go back and rock a joint there. This is that. So we were playing there. Social media was past MySpace, just into Facebook territory. And it occurred to me that one of my favorite movies and my favorite book of all time, The Outsiders, was written and filmed here. And I went looking for locations, and I happened to find the house. And at the time, the house was for sale for 40 grand. And
wow.
Coming from Beverly Hills, you can't find anything with the word real attached to it, especially real estate, for 40 grand. So although I was interested and couldn't believe that the house for the movie could be bought for 40 grand, I did not buy it. What I did do was start the Delta Bravo Urban Exploration Team, which is basically a bunch of urban explorers. We just go looking for pop culture locations, and we do the MASH before and after. And if you're looking on Facebook, you can look that up, Delta Bravo, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It starts here at this house because I took a photo out front of the house, put it on social media, and people were losing their minds. They were like, yo, is that the actual house? Where on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank is that house? I'm like, no, dude, it's in Tulsa. And so it became a thing. 5 years later, I came back, and I was worried that they were going to tear it down. They were coming through this neighborhood, tearing a lot of shit out. And that's when I started to get worried, because I had seen a few other historic locations in LA and one in another location get torn down that I thought they would never tear down. And I started inquiring, and I ended up, long story longer, I ended up buying the house for 15 grand.
Wow.
But it took about $150,000 to put it back together again. It was in really rough shape. Okay. And so I crowdfunded it, and I got, everybody from Essie Hinton to Jack White from the White Stripes kicked in $30,000. And
wow.
People in the neighborhood would bring their lawnmowers over and run the grass. I came here today, the grass was already done. I mean, people, they look out for this house like, like nobody's business. And I was told that I'm in a bad part of Tulsa, which is North Tulsa. And when I first came here, they told me, Danny, I know you ain't from these parts, but anything you put in North Tulsa, be prepared to lose. It's not will they steal your shit, it's when they'll steal your shit. And I want to tell you, I bought this house over 3 years ago. Never has anybody done anything but respect this house. It is the pride of North Tulsa. I'm going to tell you that everybody's house now is probably worth double. And I know that because I try to buy more property over here, and they laugh. They go, man, we're going to double. You're going to double me up just for putting this one here, or for redoing this one here. But it is miraculous to see the communal spirit here. This is why I ended up moving here. I left Beverly Hills. I had a nice little life in Beverly Hills, man. And I don't want you to think Beverly Hills like in the hills. I had a nice little apartment, a nice little life, a little group of friends that I grew up with that were all good and sober and doing our thing. And I left everything that was sacred and everything that I loved to come here because I believed in this town, this house, and the vibe that's here is something that I've never felt anywhere. I came here the first time and I felt I was home and had never been here in my life before. So I trust my instinct and I trust my gut and my intuition. It's never failed me. And so I did everything I could to come here. And so, and it may have cost me my marriage and it may have cost me other shit, but I'm still here. And I never look at it as that I made the wrong choice. I made the right choice. And I wake up every day happy that I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's a fact.
What has our guests been like? Do they fly from around the world to come see that place?
People come from all over the planet. The Outsiders, it's usually required reading for every 7th grade student, 7th and 8th graders. It is the book that they give kids like myself who fucking hate reading. Why would I read it if there's a movie was the first thing that comes to my mind. A lot of kids apparently like to read, but if you don't like, they'll give you The Outsiders, and you'll be like, I don't want to. Hey, this is actually cool. It is usually the porthole to experiencing the world of literature, and usually people make that passage through the S.E. Hinton catalog, but in particular The Outsiders. People come from far and wide to see this thing. Furthest I'm going to guess is like New Zealand and Australia, and people even locally go, I've been here my whole life, didn't know where it was, can't believe you did it, thank you for doing it, and where do we donate, or where can I buy a t-shirt, or how can I help? And so it is something that, again, it's a living, breathing thing. I started thinking I was just going to save the house from being demoed. Then we decided if we were going to ask for money, we would turn it into a movie museum. What I found is that more people, like I said about the Rolling Stones, there's generational wealth. The Outsiders has that generational wealth. People who went to school with Susie in '67 when she wrote it come here with their grandkids who've seen the movie in '83 when it came out, who their kids have seen, read the book in 7th grade, and now they've got kids who are in 7th grade, and the whole family tree is here to marvel at the restored house from the Outsiders. And we have the largest collection of memorabilia known to the world, and for me that makes me feel good because again, I wasn't born in Tulsa, but I got here as soon as I could, and I definitely, if I brag about anything in this whole process, because believe me, it took a whole town to do this with me and for me, I am proud of the fact that I'm an avid collector, and I brought the largest collection back home to Tulsa where it belongs. And so that's where I hang my hat, and that's where the respect for what you do and the passion that you have for hip hop, I've seen it immediately. We see each other, man. Like, it's like, that's the real, the corny, to me it's corny, the namaste, the yoga